but the following.
Okay.
All right? See you guys soon. Ah!
Oh,
you got
really?
me.
I'm the winner.
So you can
I
join
can't
us in the
win until
podcast if
the
you'd
end.
like. Okay, test. 1 2 1 2, and we're back. Ba-dum-bum-bum. Audacity's open. Is it recording? Blah 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 blah. It is. All right, cool. So it is almost time for our show. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Ba-dum-bum-bum. Ba-da-ba-ba. Okay, cool. So we've got our wide-angle cam. All right, good. The only thing we don't have is close-ups for everybody. Boop, 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 boop. Testing 1 2 3. All right. Do you want to? If you want to join us, you can sit right here. You will be, yeah.
No.
There's a
Well, it's up to you.
It's up to you. And then we'll do a preset over here. And a preset over here. Whoop. I'm interested.
Thanks for sticking around, folks.
I'm interested to hear Michael's perspective of if it's easy or incredibly hard to operate a instant replay system.
Oh, it's just it's easy. You just gotta practice, you know.
I'm sure
Press a button.
having a jog dial like that really helps. Good job, Mike.
Thank you.
You killed it.
Thank you.
We threw a lot of new tech at you in a short period of
did.
time.
I know. Well, that's nothing new around here.
William wants to know what mics these are.
The Shure
SMB.
No.
Is this what Joe
Just
Rogan
sounded
uses?
right.
It's what Joe Rogan
It's
uses.
what Joe
We
uses.
just Googled Joe Rogan mic.
It's the Shure SM7B.
Want to talk
is
about
what I
aliens?
remember.
I was close.
All right, you ready, Mike?
Actually, no, I'm not because.
It's-
Okay,
it
yep,
starts
it's
with
this
that
one.
one,
Yep. Take a minute. Here we go.
Hello and welcome to the PTZOptics post-show podcast. Today we did instant replay with
XKeys jog dial.
and we're going to tell you all about it.
Welcome to the post-show podcast with your hosts, Paul Richards, Tess Protesto, and Michael Luttermoser. Let's talk shop.
Welcome, audiovisual integrators, broadcast engineers,
And sports streamers.
sports streamers. I know William Warfield in the chat is with
Yes.
Prep Spin in the
Yeah.
Virginia area. And he helped me a lot in my beginning days of learning what is sports streaming all about. Cat in the bag, we have a new person here, Julia Sherwin.
Hello. Is my mic on?
It
Yeah.
is.
Your mic is
it's
on.
on,
So
yeah.
we can hear you, but you can't hear.
Okay.
But you
Yourself.
can't hear yourself. All right.
Got it.
That makes it easier to think while you talk.
So let's set the stage for those folks who are listening to the podcast who maybe missed the show. Today we were live streaming with our PTZOptics cameras in 1080p at 30 frames a second to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch.
30 or 60?
30.
30.
We were live streaming the production in 30 frames a second,
Uh,
but two of our cameras were actually set to 60 frames a second because that gives the vMix system more frames to use during an instant replay in slow motion. So if you think about it, if you're creating a movie and that movie is filmed to be in a movie theater at 1080p at 24 frames per second, that's what movies are filmed at, right? And you take some footage that's filmed in 60 frames a second and you plop it into a nonlinear editor like Premiere or a video editing system, it'll look like everything's slow motion unless you speed it up, because there are literally double as many frames, almost triple as many frames as needed. But the only reason why you would really do that is if you needed to show something that's moving really fast, like a butterfly or something, or a hummingbird or something. Then you could slow it down and it would look really beautiful because there's all those extra frames. So at a high level, that was what was going on, and Tess had the great idea. So we've had this idea for a while because XKeys gave us their brand new instant replay jog dial.
Let me clarify, because Dan just put this in the chat. The official name of this product is the XKeys XKE64 replay unit. Okay, and I put that in both chats. So if you want to look it up, that's going to lead you to the right information.
Thank you for that. Yes, sorry about that. So that is the correct.
There's some numbers and letters in there. It could be tricky.
Okay, cool.
Jog dial sounds cool.
Jog dial does sound cool. Thank you, Tess, for
Even though it's not right.
Because I think they have a jog dial unit that's just a jog dial.
Yes, with some keys on it.
Key device that we were using is like specific to vMix, I think.
It's pre-printed that way, right? Yeah.
And so setting it up, me and Mike set it up this morning. Yep. So we took our PTZOptics cameras, which are normally set to 30 frames a second. And the reason why we do that is because 30 frames a second is very smooth. If you're streaming, if we had all of our cameras at 60 frames a second, it might look like a soap opera. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Where everything is like super
ultra
animated and in detail, and it's so crisp, and you're like, it doesn't look
natural.
Or natural. That's why film still sticks today with 24 frames a second, because the way that I explain this is if you watch a video of something recorded in 60 frames a second and someone's hand is waving, it's weird to see a recorded video where it's all in detail and it's not blurred. You actually want it to be blurred, because if you put your hand in front of your eyes see blur. That's normal. And that's what you generally want to represent on a live stream with people. But if you're live streaming sports, where there's a hockey puck going real fast, or a soccer ball.
I still swear it's impossible
around
to watch a hockey puck go across the ice.
It
drives me crazy about that sport.
And they film everything in 60 frames a second at a minimum, because they want to be able to. Like sports is totally different. Like you're looking at the details. You want to see that. And for a long time, sports was at 720p 60 frames per second. And I believe they're now at 1080p at 60 frames a second. So that kind of frames up the conversation. We've got a lot of smart people in our chat room asking questions and chiming in. One of the main questions was, what happens to the computer processor when you're doing all of this? And so let's frame back for a second and talk about what's going on in the computer. So there's 8 cameras, 8 live streaming cameras. 6 of them are at 1080p 30. 2 of them are at 1080p 60. As soon as you go to 1080p 60, you double the amount of information that you're sending. So that's something to keep in mind if you're just getting started. It's like, if you're going to take 8 cameras and they're working fine at 1080p 30 and you turn them all to 1080p 60, your computer might not be able to handle that, because it's going to double the amount of frames that your computer is trying to process.
Yeah.
And so first of all, your computer is processing all of these video streams, but then you're asking it to record them all, because they have to be recorded in order to pull up an instant replay. So you're processing them to mix them into a stream. You're recording at least some of them onto the hard drive for instant replay. And then you're streaming just one of like the output of the whole production. And you may actually be recording the whole production. And if you're ESPN or you're really, a high-end production, you might actually be recording every single camera independently. Like I'm sure they would do that at the Super Bowl, for example, so that if the live switcher missed something, they could go back to that actual camera and be like, well, during the live production, we missed this shot, but at least we still have it so that we can show it on the highlight replay on ESPN, for example.
Right, like the Women's World Cup. They're playing in, 40 minutes?
40 minutes. And that's a great example with, for example, when they shoot and they score, they always show an instant replay. especially if there's like a foul or something like that. Everybody wants to see what really happened
Absolutely.
Yeah.
on the foul. And a video production tip that I'll throw out there is when you're watching sports, there's a lot of cameras and they switch, but they cut in the blink of an eye. There's no like fade in between one camera and it's like cut, 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 because that feels very natural because it happens in the blink of an eye and we all blink all the time. So it's just a natural thing to be watching something and it just cuts from one camera to the next to the next. But when you do an instant replay, you need to do something which is called a stinger effect. And a stinger effect is an animated transition that goes over the screen. And then when it's done, it shows you something that's happened in the past. So it's a nonverbal indication to the audience that, hey, this is no longer a live video feed. This is an instant replay of something that just happened.
Like the big dancing robot football guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
He looks like a transformer.
Yeah.
That is an instant replay or a stinger effect.
Yeah. A lot of great comments from the chat coming in. Patrick's giving us a tip. Sports should always be 60 frames per second versus 30 frames per second if the option is available. 120 second frames per second for instant replay if available.
Yeah, that's true. Now, the PTZOptics cameras will only do 60 frames per second. So that is enough for instant replay. But when you get down to, and Mike, I'd like to kind of throw this over to Mike too about your experience with the jog dial and the instant replay. But filming in 60 frames a second, once you get down to like 10%, that you can't go much lower than that, or else it
just
looks
basically
too jerky.
Yeah, it just basically stops then. You know, you're stopping like then the video. So yeah, getting to like that 20, 15, 10. I mean, that's where you get that like that classic like, you know, connection, or whatever that you're trying to show. Yeah. So
for example, if you're replaying a recording that was done in 60 frames per second, when you take it down to 50%, it is now 30 frames. And then I don't know if that's per second, but you know what I mean? Like you're showing less and less frames.
Let me think here. Yeah, so if you filmed it at 60.
Oh, I know what it is. Okay. So it's 60 over 1 second. So if you slow it down to 50%, now you're showing 30 frames over 2 seconds.
Yes.
And then if you take it down to 25%, now you're showing 15 frames at 4 seconds.
You're losing me here.
I mean, I hope I'm not completely fudging that, but you get the
Too
point
much
where
math.
there's lots and lots of frames, and the more you have, the better off you are.
Yes.
Patrick was mentioning that 120 frames is ideal.
Aha. Back to that. Okay. Do you want me to keep going down?
Yeah,
okay.
please.
Patrick says, I wish vMix would allow mixed frame rates so you could combine 360 frames per second plus one super slow-mo, 120.
Ooh.
Yes.
Maybe
Now,
something could do in the future.
I will say that the way that vMix works currently is that I think it can do 4 cameras with instant replay, which is kind of cool because, like, let's say there's an awesome score that happens and you play the instant replay from one camera and you're like, oh, that's cool, but now I want to see it from a different angle. So, and Michael was doing that, right, Mike? There's a little button that you can click to just switch the camera, but it still maintains the same timeline, for example. So as a video production person, your job is to say, all right, we're going to instant replay. So you have to do it as quickly as possible because you have a live audience watching. You switch to instant replay. Then your job is to scrub through the recording to find where the goal was, right?
Yeah.
And that's why you have these like mark in and mark out buttons. So like for what we were doing, we were playing Rock'em Bock'em, which takes, a total of 5 seconds to be over.
I feel like I'm having reminiscence of the if that, then this, if this, then that. Rock'em Sock'em.
All right, Rock'em Sock'em. And when you play that game,
Remember that?
within 5 seconds, it's over, right? So you can
or less if you're me.
You can pretty much just like make a recording and know that you can scrub back in 5 seconds and find the goal. But like if you're playing football or lacrosse or soccer, generally like you wouldn't start recording until the ball is close enough for a goal to actually happen. Then you would mark in and mark out, and that creates a recording on every single camera that's in the instant replay setup, not just like one or the other. So, and the reason why is because if you have 4 cameras, they're at the same resolution, they're at the same frame rate. When you hit that record button, they're all recording. so that when you play the instant replay and you scrub back to the point of where the goal was scored, you can then click a button and switch the camera, but it's all at the same time. So you have one timeline to scrub, but then you've got 4 options of the cameras at that specific time, which I think you.
I feel like this should almost be like another like job for someone.
Instant replay.
So like
I'm sure it is.
You have
It is.
someone just
It
doing
is.
the instant replay stuff, and then you have your main
It is.
person doing it because they're like they go the in and out and they find everything.
I felt so bad for you, Mike.
And I was like,
Mike, turn on the telestrator.
And then you're like, where is my overlay?
Yeah.
You need a replay specialist.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can even
totally.
imagine like in
They have to.
high school sports, you have one student volunteer, then that's their job. Because I remember in high school, one person would be on the teleprompter, you know?
So you have to
It
have
could be a whole job.
someone present, just like doing
To catch the action.
Yeah, and then someone being like, all right, let's rewind and see that. Like really cool.
Fun fact coming in from William. Okay, so NHL is still broadcasting in 720p. And so
720p,
is
60, yep.
NFL.
Really?
No. Well, he didn't clarify that. He said ESPN broadcasts at 720.
Yes.
And Major League Baseball is 1080. But NHL is
Yeah.
still 720.
Well, see, and that's the funny thing that, because a lot of people ask us for 4K, and 4K does allow you to do a lot of great things, and we might have some 4K cameras coming soon, but the thought of sports at 4K 60 is so far-fetched and so unrealistic because the bandwidth and the equipment and all of the processing power necessary to do 4K by itself at 30 frames per second is already difficult for most. I mean, impossible for most churches, small businesses. Like we probably will do 4K 30 just because we can.
Because we can.
But it's not necessarily like we would
Can
be like,
we?
all of our customers should be streaming in 4K. Like, why aren't they doing that? It's not really 100% realistic for them to do that. So just keep that in mind. Like 4K 30 is one thing. 4K 60 doubles something that's already kind of unrealistic. 1080p at 60, which is what we were doing.
Yeah.
We did it with no problems.
I feel like last year when we did this, it took us like 2 days to get it like set up and ready.
Yeah, we had a lot of issues. We had a lot of issues. vMix, instant replay.
It was when it first
thing.
came out.
No, it was out. It was
out?
It was just that our cameras. What we were trying to do is I didn't want to record in 100 megabits, and I was trying to do it at 25 or 50 because I was like, why? But no, you have to do 100 megabits. There's a bug in vMix if you ask me about that.
Well, I followed with the setting up the XKeys this morning. Our workflow for what we wanted to show was, it was cut in half.
It was so easy. So what we did was, I don't know if XKeys is doing this with more of their custom devices, but they're giving you a file that you can upload to vMix, which automatically assigns all of the keys. Now, it made our lives so much easier. It was still like some fine tuning that needed to be done. I feel like depending on the sport that you're broadcasting, you'll have to fine tune because for soccer Rock'em Sock'em, we realized that like the moment that the glove hits the guy's head and it pops up happens so fast that Mike really had to slow down the frames that he was scrubbing with the jog dial. Yeah, it was going too fast.
It was just like too much. Yeah, especially like how fast it would like then hit. So
what was your experience being a producer and an instant replay?
Oh, it was good.
specialist?
Definitely.
So fun.
I would say like 1,000 times better than last year. I just remember you're like, because then you'd be like NDI source. I'm like, what's that? And like your audio levels are this way. And I thought it was just like so chaotic. But this time it was like pretty smooth.
I remember
So it was good.
It kind of reminds me of when Mike used to check our microphone levels when he first started, and this is like 2 years ago now, right?
Yeah.
Well, I guess in the very beginning we weren't even here, but I was like, when we got here, Mike was in our studio space, and I'd be like, Mike, like when you check the microphone levels, you need to do more than just hear that they're on. Like I need you to listen to the levels and make sure that like my level matches Tess's level, and because like if my level's lower than Tess's level, like all the guys out there who are in professional broadcast are like, these amateurs don't know what they're doing. Yeah. And but Mike at that time was like, okay, Paul, I can hear you. Okay, Tess, I can hear you. We're good. And it's like, no. Yeah. There's a lot more that goes involved. We need to check the EQ. We need to put noise suppression. We need to add the compression. We need to equalize the two audios together. And now that's common for Mike. Mike's like, yeah, okay, hold on. Let me turn you up a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's hope for me.
So there's hope.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
there's
always
plenty
hope.
of
There's
hope.
always hope.
It's
There's always
very
hope.
technical. Just for you guys out there, Julia is brand new, although she has a radio background
I do, as a host.
as a host.
Although I did run the board for my
You
shows.
did.
For the news.
Oh, so that's kind of like streamers. They're all do-it-theirselfers.
Yeah.
Presenting and
Yeah.
producing
Well,
at the
it was
same
a small
time.
radio station, Philadelphia market, but still small. Not a lot of people. So
So this is like just another day at work. No pun intended.
I think that's a good question for our audience, by the way. It's like, how many of you guys out there do everything yourself? And how many of you guys have a team? And if you do have a team, how many people are on your team? Because I know that Tess and I went through this before where it was just me and you.
Huh?
And I would be literally doing the producer's job on camera. It's like I'd be on camera.
that's
for
really
Those
hard.
those
Really
videos are legendary.
Oh
those
my
videos are out there.
gosh, They're
They're out
hilarious.
there.
I remember to this day people being like, I can't believe you're getting a producer. We like to see you mess up. It's
Yeah,
like,
people
well,
were mad at first, but
I don't
now
like messing up live.
I think now we get compliments on how much we've grown. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're doing
certainly
a lot better.
worth it.
The more people you have on the team, the more you can do.
Oh, you're getting a compliment from David Geckler.
Hi. Oh, David.
Poor Mike, come a long way, baby.
Now, David, I did, by the way, I need to catch up with you. We did buy the wireless Nooks
Yeah.
system, but it didn't work with our Sony. But now I feel like we should have got it for you. You could probably would have worked with your camera.
Do you want to hear a vMix rumor?
Sure.
Maggie, what's up, Maggie? Maggie heard a rumor that the upcoming version of vMix will have that replay layout already in there. So it should be that
Oh.
easy every time.
Nice.
That's awesome. I heard, or I will say that I was expecting that because if you look in there, they've got like setups for Xbox controllers,
Yeah.
for example, and things like that. So
Oh, sorry,
Those
go ahead.
vMix guys are so cool.
They rock.
they
Yeah.
are.
You're getting some feedback from your question. How many of you are solo streamers? Michael is just himself, Michael Moe. William is a one-man band, unless it's a huge event. And Chad has a team of 15, including camera
Yes.
people. Lucky
What?
Chad.
So Chad Burton, by the way, I'd love to bring up his story just a
15
little
people.
bit. I called Chad and Jordan, who started Tiger Vision for Palm Meadow High School. Okay, high school football in Florida is a big deal. Okay, it's a big deal. You know, some of these kids are going on and going to
They
the
want to
pros.
make a career out
You know,
of it.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is legitimately like the guys that were. I don't know if you saw the I think it was NBA draft, but it's like the same thing for high school sports. It's a big deal. So they started out just them, and they started streaming, and they had Black Magic switchers. They had this whole story of like they bought the wrong things, and then they bought new things.
Classic.
Finally, they bought PTZOptics cameras. They started using vMix. Now they have a trailer that they drive, I think it's like an RV trailer that they drive up to the football field, and literally they let down the gates, and 15 students come in. One of them's camera operator. One of them, I think, like there might be 4 PTZ cameras, and each one of those PTZ cameras has a student camera operator they're using Xbox joysticks. Wow. One of them is an instant replay. And Chad, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Chad's like the executive producer. Like he's sitting back there, like watching everyone, like, calling the shots. You know, I even think they have like little in-ear monitors and they like, talk to each other.
I want an in-ear monitor.
All that stuff.
Tighten up, shot 4, Danny.
Yeah.
Keep it tight.
Keep it tight. Honestly, I
Get
think,
it together.
excuse me. I think inside the trailer they even have like a post-show
Look,
broadcasting area where when the show's over, they switch to this little stage in the trailer and then they like cover the game.
Yeah. Web
intense.
streaming is
Impressive.
also a single person
intense.
production. Chad says, I blame you guys. Laugh out loud.
And I'll plug, Chad and I are actually working on a book together, so I'm excited about that.
Wow. We're going to book together?
Yeah, we are. So
Paul Richards Library of
Oh,
Westchester,
gosh.
PA.
Okay, there was another question that I wanted to get to. Okay, web streaming says, how about the system performance if I replay with 60 frames per second to a 2-camera system, record and stream all at the same time?
what's going to happen to his computer?
Yeah, or her, web streaming.
It's going to blow up.
Okay, so that's not
I'm
good.
just kidding.
I guess
No,
it would depend on your computer.
Well, to be honest, it's a big question out there. You know, I mean, there's two routes to go. You can buy a hardware video production switcher from Blackmagic or from NewTek or from a company that sells hardware, and they will tell you this switcher can handle this many cameras and this many instant replay systems. You know what I mean? Now with vMix and Wirecast and software solutions, that software is put on a computer that you build yourself or buy at Micro Center or get from our good friend Tom Sinclair from Eastern Shore Broadcasting like we have. And then you've got a custom computer, so you have to follow the reference guides that the software provider that you're using publishes. So for example, vMix has reference systems on their website that says, if your computer has an i9 processor and 64 gigabytes of RAM and a solid state hard drive and this graphics card, you should be able to handle 8 1080p inputs and 4 instant replay, for example. So hopefully that answers the question. Cool.
If you're wondering for the audio listeners where we're getting these questions from, don't forget we stream the recording of our podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, so you can tune in and ask questions live as well.
So I wanted to foreshadow a little bit for next week. It is 4th of July. Happy birthday, America, and everyone listening. I hope that you guys enjoy your vacation. We will not be streaming our show next Friday. But the following Friday, we're going to pick up on this topic, change it around a little bit, except we're going to change the sport. And I don't know if we want to let the cat out of the bag of what it's going to be.
Put your guesses in the comments.
It's not going to be Sock and Bop 'em because Tess's son really wants it, so we're going to let him go play with it.
Actually, that would make his day because he cried yesterday because he wasn't
Cried
getting
'cause
the
you-
rock'em.
Did you tell him it was for mom's
I said it
work?
was for Paul. I was like,
Oh,
this is
you're-
for Paul.
You're turning me into like the bad guy now.
It's like, darn
I'm the
Paul.
bad guy.
Duh. That was a good one, Michael, right?
That's cute.
Gem.
That's cute. Paul's your other child.
For this being your first time on our podcast, Julia, you've definitely spoken actually a fair amount.
This is the most quiet I've ever been on the radio.
But compared to other first-time guests and whatnot. So
Yeah.
I think you're going to be fine.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think you're going to be fine. I think it's good that you're coming on the show. It takes a while to have these conversations and listen in, especially because we're not like starting from zero just because you're here. You know what I mean? We continue to jump down the rabbit hole.
That's all right.
As
It's a
many
steep
of
learning
these-
curve.
1 million inputs.
1 million inputs.
Michael the whole time is just like, da-da-da-da-da-da.
And one of the things that I will say is that I never got any formal training on broadcast and streaming either. And we just put ourselves out there starting about 5 or 6 years ago. And thank you, all of our live viewers. I can name many of them. Mike Lotta in the beginning. They would just be like, why don't you have a backlight?
Try
Why don't you
this,
have
try
a
that."
hair light?
Yeah.
Why are you using a stinger effect for every single transition?
They still do.
And that was literally cutting our teeth every show. And then we were finally like, thank you so much, everyone out there who taught us, literally just was like questioning everything we did.
That's the best way to learn anything, really. Just do it.
Yeah.
There's
do it.
so
We
many
did.
too. I can just think of so many.
And even since Mike has been here, and sometimes
it's so crazy.
we took it to the level David Geckler loves to send us like a page
Yes.
review.
Yes.
Thank you, David. In fact, one day we didn't know what our show was going to be about, so we actually just printed out literally like a page report from David Geckler and just walked around the studio and was like, David, you're right. We need to fix this. David, you're right. We need to fix this. And there are some things where like I remember David, and we love you, David, by the way. David is a producer from Los Angeles, California, and they have a little, maybe larger budget.
I think a little bit bigger budget than
Bigger
ours.
maybe facilities, because he was mentioning, he's like, oh, you really need, what was it?
He was like, just blow out the wall and make it bigger.
Yeah, he was like, usually what we do is we just roll in a wall and the wall has lights clipped onto it. And I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. If like, for like Hollywood, that's what they do. They like roll in the sets in these giant warehouses. They roll the wall in QVC. I think they have like,
it's the same.
I think in QVC I'm not sure, but we really should take a field trip there. But I have seen on a movie, it like rolls in a circle.
Yeah.
Like there's like it's like a circle with like 3 pies, and it just like all the cameras stay and all the producers stay, and it just like rotates.
Wait, what are you talking about?
QVC.
Oh.
That's what I was told.
Yeah.
that
The
they do.
stage?
Yeah, like it's
Yeah.
a stage like on
Uh-huh.
a circle with
I
like,
think I know what you
like
mean.
Multiple sets.
Like a giant version
movie
of
of
that
Joy.
thing,
yeah, in that movie Joy, I remember seeing
Which-
it where she
yeah.
invented the mop.
which is this
Mhm.
like product demonstration spinner. So basically, you're on a giant product
set
demo.
stage.
I don't know how to
Now,
explain
one
it.
of the things that I was really happy about Rock'em
Rock'em Sock'em
Rock'em
Bop.
Sock-
Sock 'em.
Now he's doing it
One of the
intentionally. He
things
must be.
that I like about it is that it was live streamed on Twitch, and there's a big deal right now. All right, so esports, e-gaming, it's huge, right? It's bigger. It might be bigger than NFL currently, but it definitely will be. It's on the trajectory to be bigger than most normal sports. They all stream in 60 frames a second for a different reason, right? They're streaming in 60 frames a second because their reaction time has to be like milliseconds, right?
And then the games as well.
Yeah. So there's like these
Their footage.
the refresh rate on their
Yeah.
televisions must be incredibly fast, and the frame rate that they're streaming must be incredibly fast. So like the latency is super important. But the thing that I liked about what we did today is that it kind of was gaming, if you will.
Retro
It
gaming.
was more retro gaming than it was traditional sports.
Yeah.
You know, and there's this big thing where tabletop games are having a huge renaissance, like Dungeons and Dragons. You
How
know,
about it?
what do you think about when you hear Dungeons and Dragons?
Kids in high school.
Yeah. And you think about something that's like, do people really do that anymore?
Yeah, it's
Dungeons
my
and-
generation.
Dungeons and
Really?
Dragons
Yeah.
had their best year ever in 2018.
Really?
Huge renaissance.
Yeah.
Gaming, hobby shops, all these places. You're
Yeah.
like, is
Table-
that place still in business? That
Tabletop gaming.
old hobby shop? And these you know what's
See, the
happening?
80s were cool.
Yeah.
The 80s were cool. And they're streaming the tabletop games to Twitch, and thousands of people are
Wow.
watching.
How about it?
It's like how people are getting back into vinyl, and then there's this other renaissance happening right now. People are getting back into film, like actual like film development.
Yes.
Like no more
Yes.
digital.
Dark
like-
room.
Yeah, your dark room. Yeah.
That's
That is a lot of fun.
yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
had a genius idea. If you somehow set up a portable or easy to use like film development in every vinyl shop, so you could go in,
That's-
Oh, it'd be
buy
like an
your
old school
records,
experience.
and then develop your film, and then get a slice of pizza and go back to your parents' house.
I'll never forget. I took like photography in high school.
Yeah,
and
me too.
I tried
Yeah.
to convince my parents to let me build a dark room.
Oh,
in
that's
my
so
house. Like, I was
cool.
gonna be like,
Wow.
I almost had one too. I
Really?
really wanted
Wow.
one. We were going to convert like a powder room and
Yes.
To a
Yeah.
dark
Same.
room. Yeah.
That's
it,
so
it never
funny.
panned out. But
That's so funny because I had the same experience in college. I took film, like darkroom, every year for 4 years, and then my parents were like, "You have a business management degree. Why the heck did you take so much film in school?" And now I'm like, "Pah, I'm working for a camera company now, so I'm paid
Right.
off." You know? But anyway,
You're like, I'm gonna travel the world, mom and dad, and take pictures. I don't care what you say.
yeah.
So we got a little off topic, but a lot of it is on par with the changing world that we live in. Esports, regular streaming sports, rock, sock 'em, bop 'em.
And of course, all the XKeys products integrate
Yes.
excellent with PTZOptics cameras.
Shout out to XKeys. Thank you so much.
Next week, or not next week, we're off. The following week, we will be live streaming something that's a lot more of a sport, but it will be in our studio. So if you can guess what that is, you'll see that not next Friday, but the following.
All right, guys.
Okay.
That's a wrap for us today. Don't forget to subscribe and like and follow our podcast if you're listening. Thank you.
All right, cool.
There it is.
Thank you, everybody.
Yay.
all your sound effects.
Aren't
So
they fun?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's XKeys as well.
Wow.
You can do anything with those buttons. Like you can program them to like press it and it would open up Microsoft
Please.
Word or
Oh, really?
yeah, or it would open up Google Chrome.
Like up there. That's
Mhm.
amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, like a lot of
And what are these for? Like that's a camera that's on you?
Yeah, that's an old picture. They had sent us little printed out.
we
keys
couldn't
of our
delete them.
face, which was
That's
super
really
cute.
cool. Wow. Man, where did
Actually,
you
I
learn
just
all
go to
this stuff? Just
Podbean.
from working here? Just from on the fly?